Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark, and we are beginning this first letter of Peter, chapter 1, and we're starting at verse 1. And Peter here writes, and he says, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Now, Peter here starts out by saying, Peter, an apostle. Now, the Greek word for apostle is apostolos. And apo means from, and stello means to send. So apostolos means one who is sent forth, okay? And Peter was sent forth by God to proclaim the good news of salvation through faith in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Peter's saying, I'm Peter and I'm an apostle. I am one who was sent forth by God to be an example, to preach the gospel, to communicate Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection to this world. All right? Now, this brings up a situation that we have today in the Christian community, and I wanted to take a few minutes on it, and that's that any Christian can be an apostle. Has God sent you forth to that job that you're in? Have you been, you may be saying, Pastor Mark, I know that God wanted me to have that job. I mean, it was like all the doors opened up and he led me right there. It was like God sent me to that job or to that school, that university or college that you go to. Has God moved you to that new town or that new city or that new place? Has God led you there? If you believe that you were led by God to get that job or to move to another place or whatever the endeavor may be and be a testimony for him, then you are an apostle. And you may say, well, I don't feel like I'm an apostle. And the reason why is because of the teachings that we've been having here in the world in the last 30, 40, 50 years among the Christian community about what an apostle is. All right? Apostles, listen to this. Apostles are not made by men. They are called by God. Let me say that again. Apostles are not made by men. Apostles are called by God. Apostles aren't only people who attend Bible school for years and then go out into the world. That's the mentality. That's the predominating mentality that Christians have. Oh, apostles. Oh, you're an apostle? Oh, well, that must be some special title, right? I mean, how did you attain to apostleship, right? Let me tell you again, apostles are not made by men. They are called by God, all right? An apostle is simply, an apostle is simply someone whom God sends to be a witness and a testimony of him. It's that simple. I know there's going to be a lot of other Christians out there who are going to try to convince you that no, apostleship is much more than that. Oh no, apostleship is not, apostleship is not an elitist group. It's not an elitist group. It was never begun. Jesus never said, oh, you attained to apostleship. There you are, Peter. You are now an apostle, right? Or Paul, you are an apostle of me now. You have attained to this group. No, It's not that at all. And I know that there are groups out there, there are churches with, you see a sign on a church or on the roadside, in front of the church and along the road, and it'll say, it'll have the name of the church on it, and then it'll say, Pastor so-and-so or Minister so-and-so. But some of them have Apostle so-and-so, right? Apostle John Smith or Apostle whoever, right? And you get this mentality, oh, they're an apostle. They must have spent years studying Greek and the Bible, and they've dedicated their lives, and oh yes, they've attained to apostleship, right? No. Apostleship, listen, apostolos is what? Someone who is sent forth. That's all it is. That's all it is. And I'm telling you, if God has sent you forth to your job, if God has sent you forth to that city or that town where you live, if God has sent you forth to that school, to university, wherever, if God has sent you forth, you are an apostle because you become a testimony unto Him in that place. That's what an apostle is. We need to get out of this mentality of apostleship. Oh, this is an apostle. You're an apostle. Well, you've attained to this elitist group. No, it's not that at all. True biblical apostle is someone who is called by God and sent by God. You're sent by God to go and be a testimony to Him. And I'm telling you, you can be, well, yes, you're right, Pastor Mark, but it has to be overseas. It has to be to some third world country, right? Or it has to be to some overseas country. That's really what an apostle is, right? Because that's what the original apostles did. No. James didn't go. James was an apostle, but he was an apostle where? In Jerusalem. He didn't leave home. He stayed right there, right? The apostles were, some of them did go, like Peter, like Paul, like John Mark. Some people did go, but some didn't. An apostle is one who is sent forth by God. And if you've been sent forth by God, it doesn't have to be to some other country, some other region or whatever. It can be right in your hometown. You're a testimony. If you're a testimony to God at your work, you're an apostle. If you're preaching the gospel at your school and you're a witness to Him, you're an apostle. You've been sent by God to that place. You've been sent by God to that job, to that school. You've been sent by God to go to that town. All right? To take up that job or whatever. You've been sent by God to be a testimony to Him there. And you are an apostle. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not. Well, these are the requirements of what an apostle is. No, it's all foolishness. An apostle is someone who's sent forth by God. All right? Now he says here, now it gets into something very interesting. Peter says, an apostle of Jesus Christ to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus and the other regions. But it says here, to the strangers. Now, this is very important because it says the Greek construction here is electos parapedemos. Electos parapedemos. Now, what it really says in the Greek is elect pilgrims. Parapedemos is the Greek word for pilgrim. And electos is the Greek word for elect. Now, you may say, but I don't see any word elect strangers there. No, you don't. But in the original Greek, listen, in the original Greek text, it says electos parapedemos. It says elect pilgrims or elect strangers. The Greek word for strangers here, parapedemos, means a pilgrim, someone who is a pilgrim. And that's what Peter is calling them. You're pilgrims. All right? You're strangers. You had to move. You had to leave Rome in a hurry and get out and go somewhere, some whole new land. You're a pilgrim. You're a stranger in that new land now. But Peter says, you're elect. So I know that in the Greek, in the English Bible, if you read your Bible, in most cases, in most Bibles, you're going to see that word electos in verse 2. It says elect according to the foreknowledge of God. That's where you see the word elect. But that's in the English Bible. In the original Greek, that Greek word for elect in verse 2 is actually in verse 1, before strangers. Electos parapidemos. All right? That's important. Parapidemos means, para means alongside of, and epi means upon, and demos means a people. And it can refer to a people of a strange or a heathen city. All right? So he's saying here, elect strangers. And Peter is referring to Jewish believers. Now, why would he call them elect strangers? The Jews have been known and have been referred to as God's chosen people all the way back to time of Abraham. Okay? The Jewish people have been known as chosen by God all the way back to Abraham. That Peter refers to them as pilgrims means that these Jewish believers left their homes, their towns, their city, and have settled down in a different place, in a different city, alongside of unsaved people. All right, that's what parapidemos means. Parapidemos, again, remember, epi upon, demos, a people, and para means alongside. It means these people have uprooted and they have settled alongside of worldly people. Okay, the elect people, the people who were chosen, have been uprooted from their town and their city, and they have been replaced. They have been set alongside of another people. Okay, like and now the elect people have become strangers and pilgrims. Okay, they are strangers and pilgrims in a new land. They have been uprooted and planted somewhere else, and they are now living alongside of unsaved people. All right? And this is why it's very, I'm telling you, I'm really being blessed studying this and going through it. And I hope you're as blessed and not just, please, I'm not trying to fill you with information and get your head all puffed up. Wow, look what I know. You know, I know so much about the Bible now. I can tell you this and that. No, it's not, none of that. But I just really love getting into the Bible, studying the Greek words and the tenses and the moods and things, and really reading the Bible and studying it for what it really says and interpreting it that way, because then it gives you a clear understanding. And it's just studying these words, electos, parapidemos. It's like when you study this, I've read the Bible many times, and I've always read 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 1 and 2, and I never thought anything of it. But until I actually really studied this in the Greek and using tenses and moods and things, you begin to see that it may be just a little bit different than what we think it is, than what we've been learned all these years, and we study it, and it just brings a whole new light to what we've known before, and it adds, and it just draws us closer to God's meaning and God's heart, doesn't it? It's not to puff up our minds, but it's for us to grow closer to Him and to love Him and to see not only what Peter was writing to these people, but how does that word apply to us today? And as you are an apostle who is scattered abroad, you've been called from your church community to go out into the world like them. Electos, you are an elect people who have been sent forth to go into the world amongst unsaved and preach the gospel. And that could be at work, could be at school, wherever you go. But you are a testimony unto him. And that's how it, when Peter wrote it, he wrote it to these Jewish believers. But as I apply that word to myself now, I apply it to me in my world today, right? And that's how we're blessed by God as we read these words. All right, until next lesson, walk with the Lord. I know he walks with you.